All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, getting you set for the big one here. Miami and LSU. We've been anticipating this game for months, meaning as soon as the national championship game was done last year. This has been the talk of my channel and a number of people in college football, of course, with two brand names getting on the field together for the first time since the 2005 Peach Bowl. And of course, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe as I bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the nation. And of course, analysis from myself. So we talked some Miami football earlier today with Cam Underwood from State of the U. That was at noon Eastern time. In a little while prior to kickoff at 6:30 Eastern, I will have the wholesome one, Dwayne Holloway, on to talk Miami again. And I have been desperately seeking for the LSU take because I didn't want to have to represent the Bayou Bengals myself. So got Marcus Lee on the line, big LSU guy, big LSU fan. We are connected on Twitter. Marcus, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. And this is nice for somebody like me because you're going to be all anxious and nervous and sweating out every play. I just get to watch a good football game and just get to kick back and enjoy the athleticism out there. So it's nice for us people that aren't necessarily invested, but just want to see good football. This should be a really good one.
Yeah, this definitely should be a good one. Miami and LSU does have a lot of talent. I'm not too nervous about Miami. I'm a big fan, but LSU has athletes across the board. So does Miami. But I mean, I feel like I take our athletes over their athletes. We have a lot of concern from the media on Coach Orgeron and the offense, but I believe Coach Orgeron made the right decision in bringing Steve Ensminger on as the new offensive coordinator. People don't remember in 2016 when they lost those two games to Wisconsin and Auburn that Steve Ensminger took over and averaged like 38 points per game. Like and with Cameron's offense, so he's bringing in his new offense. He's kind of running as far as the run game. He's going to do a lot of wide zones. Spread it out, 12 personnel, 11 personnel, very multiple team. And we recruit. I mean, we've been recruiting top of the NCAA the past 10 years, I would say.
So, Marcus, I don't want you to sway my prediction too much, but if you keep talking up LSU, then you might. I have yet to make my prediction on this game. I've been holding out on this one. And I do think it's going to be a one-score game, most likely, unless it's, of course, a situation where it's down to the wire. It's a one-score game, but somebody takes back a pick six, or there's a last-second garbage touchdown that's meaningless. But basically, it's, I believe, going to go inside 5 minutes to play, and it's going to be the game on the line right there. So everybody wants to know about Joe Burrow, what his response is going to be. Obviously, the guy was recruited near the top of his class at his position, goes to a place like Ohio State, where, in fact, he was the Ohio high school all-time touchdown leader in a very good football-playing state. Of course, many people saw what Dwayne Haskins was capable of doing against Michigan for a quarter and against Oregon State yesterday. So he's an exceptional talent, and Joe Burrow pushed him to the hilt. Your expectation based on what you know, based on what you've seen of Burrow's performance tonight?
Well, from what I know about Joe Burrow, I've seen that he's Ohio State Player of the Year two times. He led his team to a national championship. I believe they lost in it, but I mean, you look at the numbers. He's very efficient. He's a coach's son. So, and his dad is the defensive coordinator at Ohio University. So, he's grew up in a family of football background, and I'm pretty sure he understands how to read defenses. And as far as from what I've seen on tape, I know it's spring games and mop up time against lower competition, but he's smart. He's a quick thinker. He processes the game fast, and he throws the ball with anticipation and accuracy. And that's pretty much all you can ask for with the athletes that LSU has on the outside.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of those athletes because we're not quite as familiar with them as we have been in the past. We'll get to the running back situation in just a minute, but I certainly ran through the personnel during my preview and prediction on LSU. There's a number of guys like Jonathan Giles. So if you watch the entirety of college football, look over the Power Five, even though Texas Tech wasn't a real player last year with only 5 wins, Jonathan Giles at least gives some stability to this wide receiver core in that he's been there, he's been productive, he's played every week, caught 13 touchdowns, almost 1,200 yards receiving. So he's a known commodity. Talk a little bit about him, what you expect out of him, and some of these other guys we got Derek Dillon, we got Stephen Sullivan, Drake Davis, a number of other guys maybe that you think are going to factor into the passing game today.
Well, Jonathan Giles, I don't believe that he'll get the same type of numbers because we're not a pass-happy offense like Texas Tech. He also played with Patrick Mahomes, but I do think he's going to be a solid contributor to our offense. As far as receivers, the other 2 starters will be Justin Jefferson, which is he's a legacy, Jordan Jefferson's brother, Jordan Jefferson and Ricky Jefferson's younger brother. And we also have Terrace Marshall, the 5-star freshman. He's going to be starting on the other side, rotating with Jamar Chase, the other 5-star freshman. We expect a lot out of Stephen Sullivan. D. Anderson is another guy. Derek Dillon is going to back up Jonathan Giles in the slot. So we have we're going to play about 9-10 receivers this year.
So Marcus, Terrace Marshall is getting a ton of play. Did I catch you off there? Did you have anything else there?
No.
So Terrace Marshall is obviously a 5-star. He was at the top of his class. What makes him potentially so special? Is it just sheer speed, size, hands? It must be the complete package, I would guess, at a 5-star level.
Well, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, he has the size. He's a 6'3" kid. I think he's like even 200 pounds, and he can take the top off of the defense. And he runs great routes and has great hands.
All right, so we're on the line with Marcus Lee. You can join him on Twitter at Lewis Lee. Wanted to provide some fairness, some equality to the pregame hype and the breakdown here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. So I would ask anybody who's out there that loves following LSU in particular or loves following the entirety of college football to please comment, like, and subscribe. Join Lewis there. It's Marcus. Lewis is the nickname, right?
Correct. That's my name.
All right. Lewis Lee. Lewis_Lee on Twitter. And he loves college football and the Bayou Bengals in particular. But right here for college football information and insight, discussion, debate on a daily basis as we scan the nation, just check out the videos as we cover it like no one else. All right, Marcus, what are the concerns? I know you really love the talent on this team across the board, but there has to be an area or two that leaves you a bit uneasy going to kickoff.
Yes, the concerns I do have are the offensive line. As far as the center position, we bring in Lloyd Cushenberry. He was one of those kids that got a late offer. One of our kids, I think he was in the 2015 class, and one of those kids that we really wanted committed somewhere else, and a spot opened up, and he got that late scholarship spot. He's starting this year, and with the loss of Ed Ingram, that kind of hurt because that was our best offensive guard. But we bring in the transfer Damian Lewis. He's going to fill in that spot. And they say, from what I've heard in camp, they say he's the best offensive lineman on the team. And we have Garrett Brumfield coming back on the left side. Sadiq Charles. We're a pretty good run blocking team. But as far as pass protection, we had a little trouble with that last year. And I kind of see that as a concern this year as well. And we don't know who our right tackle is going to be between Adrian McGee and Badara Traore, which was the number 1 offensive tackle in the nation coming out of JUCO last year.
So, Marcus, so much has been made of the running back situation where we are typically used to the stud, the Leonard Fournette, the Darius Geist, the Jeremy Hill on down the line for the past 15 years under Nick Saban and Les Miles. There are a number of crazy stats out there, and you could probably recite them better than I could. I think first time since 1966 that the team does not bring back a rushing touchdown from a running back. The least number of yardage coming back at that position, going back to sometime in the 70s. So we've got unknown commodities at running back. Kind of fill us in where you think these guys are going to place. I've seen as many as 4 guys in play, headed up by Nick Brissett, I believe. How do you think the running back carry distribution is going to play out, and who are you really eager to see on the field?
Well, I think the running backs are going to be they're going to be just fine. Just go back to a couple years ago. I mean, we really haven't been that team to have that one feature back all the time. We always kind of been a running back by committee. I'm talking about Terrence. I can't think of his name. Alfred Blue, and we had Terrence.
Terrence McGee.
Terrence McGee. Yeah, we were more of a running back by committee, and I think we're going back to that this year. Nicholas Brissett, he's a tough runner, short yardage, goal line runner, and we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But the kid I'm most interested to see that I haven't seen yet is Chris Curry, the running back out of Lehigh, Florida. He was a 4-star recruited by Miami. He's a really good running back, tough running back. They say they remind him of Marshawn Lynch, and we also have the younger brother of Leonard Fournette. So we're going to be more of a running back by committee, spread it evenly. I expect Nick Brissett and Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get most of the touches, with Chris Curry probably getting touches late in the game.
So from a defensive standpoint, I've got to think that LSU's chance to really disrupt, make plays behind the line of scrimmage, turn the field for the offense, put Burrow in a good situation, field position-wise, is that because Miami does not have a great offensive line. They've had issues up front. The quarterback, the offensive line seem to be, unless things have changed between last year and this year, the sore spot. So do you think you have, and you typically do, the defensive personnel up front to take advantage?
Well, that's what I'm really most excited about for this team is the defense. Third year under Dave Aranda. The first 2 years, this 2016 year, we had all those pro guys, Tre'Davious White, Devon Godchild, Jamal Adams. We only ran about 3 or 4 defenses. Last year was the same. We had to reteach the defense because a lot of young guys stepped in. It was about 3 or 4 defenses. This year, a lot of experience is coming back from last year. And they got about last year they had 4 sets. This year they have about 40 or 50 sets that they can run out of. And if you've seen what Dave Aranda did at Wisconsin, then, I mean, you get pretty excited for what he can do down here with all these athletes. And our main problem last year was stopping the run because we didn't have that much depth on the defensive line. This year we have two full defensive lines, and they have another defensive line full of freshmen that they're probably not ready to go, but they develop more during the season. Will be a very, very, very deep unit at the defensive line. Linebackers, they're still deep. They have Jacob Phillips, the number 1 inside linebacker from last year's recruiting cycle. And, of course, Devin White. And then in the secondary is just loaded with the cornerback, Christian Fulton, being reinstated again. He's probably not going to start. I don't know. He's probably not going to start. Orgeron says between him or Calvin Joseph, the freshman that came in for the 4-star. So they like a big body on the outside and like to keep their smaller guys in the nickel. And we got Terrence Alexander, the transfer from Stanford, and Kerry Vincent last year. He's a track national champion, so he's pretty fast. But defense, I feel totally confident in. Outside linebackers, K'Lavon Chason, he might be a top pass rusher this year coming up. People need to watch out for him. So I really feel that this defense is going to turn a lot of heads in this Miami game tonight.
Talking LSU Miami, of course, they kick off tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time on ABC. We've got Marcus Lee on the line. You can join him at Lewis_Lee on Twitter. We, of course, aim here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, to bring you balanced analysis on both sides of the ball. We're steeped on Miami. I could sit here and talk about LSU and try to balance out the conversation, but I did that in a much better way by bringing Marcus on here. So I appreciate Marcus taking some time for us. Do you have any insight or thought into whether Greedy Williams is going to follow Amon Richards on both sides of the field, or does he typically line up on one corner and whatever happens, he's going to be locking down that side of the field?
Well, the thing with that is we have a pretty good defensive backfield. I don't believe that he'll travel because Miami has other receivers that we need to worry. We can't just worry about Amon Richards. We have Jeff Thomas, Lawrence Cager, receivers like that that are explosive athletes that we have to worry about too. But I can't give you a call on that. But for what I've seen, Greedy last year mostly stayed on the same side, and they had Dante Jackson traveling, and but they might give him that responsibility this year to travel. We'll see. But if he does, then that'll be a great matchup. That will definitely be a great matchup to see.
It's LSU Miami tonight. We're just a couple hours away, and helping us with the analysis on the LSU side in particular is Marcus Lee. How much do you know about the Canes? How much did you get a chance to see them last year and then study them in the offseason to get prepared for this game? And your thoughts about Miami, regardless of what happens tonight, whether they can be a factor in the ACC and on the national scale?
Well, I've checked out Miami a lot ever since I seen that we were going to be playing them this year. I checked them out a lot. They have it's great athletes at Miami. And what better game to play than on a Sunday night? No other game is on TV in Jerry's world. Athletes on athletes. I mean, two great programs. I feel like Miami has a good D-line, a good defense, a great defense. Two good linebackers. Jaquan Johnson is a first-round pick. Shaq Quarterman is a first-round pick. I like Joe Jackson. He's a first-round pick. Gerald Willis, I know he's from New Orleans. He went to Edna Carr High School down here, and we played them every year in the playoffs. I went to St. Augustine High School, the same school as Leonard Fournette went to, and Tyrann Mathieu. And I mean, I know they pretty much have a stout defense. I know they don't have. I know their concern is probably the lack of depth on the defensive line, and I know the offensive line, but in this game is going to come down to the trenches, and if they'll be able to keep Malik Rogers' pocket big, because if the pocket collapses on Malik Rogers, how consistent and how accurate can he be? And that's, I mean, we seen it last year, the games against Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a disciplined football team, a sound gap assignment football team. They played good defense. Clemson played good defense. My question to Miami is, can they handle the pressure that LSU is going to be coming with today?
Good stuff from Marcus Lee. You can join him on Twitter at Lewis_Lee, helping us out with the LSU breakdown as they enter game number 1 with Ed Orgeron on the sideline once again here, going back to 2016 late in the season. Before I let you go, Marcus, your take on Orgeron in regards to his tenure thus far, what he's done with the team and the program, whether you enjoyed the hire, and regardless of what it was at the time, your thought about his performance in terms of game management, game approach, preparation for the team, halftime adjustments, and just coaching the program and coaching the team on game day.
Well, I'm a believer in Ed Orgeron. Unlike a lot of people down here, I'm a believer in Ed Orgeron simply for the fact that he's a great motivator, he's a great recruiter, and he put a staff that he trusts around him, and the staff is filled with NFL used to be coordinators. He got a lot of help with his analysts. As far as game management, he definitely can get a little better in game management. It was 2 games I feel like we could have won. We easily have an 11-2 season if we beat Troy, if we have a field goal kicker, and if we beat Notre Dame. I think those problems are over. I think we have a field goal kicker now. It came from D2, it's like the number 2 rated kicker. So I feel like that's going to win us a couple more games this year. And I mean, he prepares the team. He runs the team like an NFL. He runs it like the NFL. So I mean, hopefully that he can silence the doubters and he do good this year. I mean, people forget that LSU still won 6 games in the Southeastern Conference last year. They went 6-2. They beat Auburn. They beat Florida right after the Troy loss. So I mean, they were a really good team, but they had a lot of young players and inexperience and not a lot of depth when we had that first bad loss against Mississippi State. And then we come back and then the next 2 weeks later we lose to a Troy team, which won the Sun Belt, but that's no excuse for losing to Troy on homecoming.
Yeah, that was the really awful stretch right there for LSU football, to go to Mississippi State and not lose because they're a good football team, but to lose 37-7, we came at home was obviously one that brought all the jokes and the criticism. But Auburn, based on what they were able accomplished last year. That's a pretty strong effort. And I certainly saw about 5 to 10 mistakes that were very fixable against Notre Dame that turned that game where that should have been won without obviously the play down the sideline to end the game that turned that into a Notre Dame win. All right, but we're focused here on 2018. We got Miami LSU in just a couple hours. We got Marcus Lee on the line. Marcus, we appreciate you stopping by. You have helped me considerably in trying to get some LSU insight into this matchup. Hope you enjoy the game tonight and take it in. Hope the heart palpitations don't take over too much.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me over. Go Tigers.
All right, Marcus. We'll let you sign off there. I'm going to stay on the line for just another minute or two. So that was Marcus Lee. Just a fan, doesn't have a website, doesn't have a blog, isn't a reporter, a beat writer, anything like that. But I did want to get somebody on here to talk some LSU football. I reached out to the typical guest that we have, Matt Moscona from ESPN Radio. He's not available. Of course, he's on the scene working all day, so I didn't expect to pry him away, but gave it a shot. As well as Billy Gomilla, who is the chief editor for SB Nation's site for LSU and the Valley Shook. For those of you who have watched me for quite some time, you remember Billy joining me on a regular basis to talk LSU football. He will be, after being here at the game in Dallas, not available today, but Billy's going to join me hopefully sometime on Tuesday to talk up the LSU-Miami game and give the recap. And we'll see where we stand, either 0-1 or 1-0 for the Bayou Bengals. I've been joining the chat here and there. If there's anything that you guys want answered, any comments, we were talking predictions, and I probably shouldn't throw this out there, but I'm mighty happy with the start of my season. So in terms of predictions, I'm always around 82, 83% straight up. Money line, straight up, no points. 82, 83% in college. Obviously, there's a number of games that make that easy to pump up the winning percentage. Ohio State, Oregon State. Wow, that's a tough one. Ohio State wins. That's an easy win. So there's typically, especially early in the season during the FCS games and the Group of Five games against the Power Five, you've got a number of gimmies, and then you've got about 5 or 6 matchups that really, really decide your record. So 82, 83% is my typical showing against the money line, straight up. Against the spread, I'm not a professional. I'm not a handicapper, but I do this fairly well. And if you hit anything over about 52.5%, you're going to make some money, unless you really don't know how to deal with money. but if you know what you're doing, if you go to Vegas and play it, or one of the sports books that's now going to be legalized across the nation at some point in various areas, then 52 to 53% starts to make some money. I'm historically in the 55 to 58% range. Last year, 57.6 at 155 right, 114 wrong. But yesterday, I usually get off to a bad start before I get a read on these teams. So my first 3 weeks, 4 weeks is typically I'm 3 or 5 games under 500. I'm only at 47%, and then I really need to rally with a good 60 to 62% to rally for the season to finish up at my customary 55%, something in that range. So I'm ecstatic about starting the season at 12-5. No, I have not made a prediction on Miami LSU. I've got to do that in the next hour when we bring on the wholesome one, Dwayne Holloway, 6:30 Eastern time. I've got to pick Miami LSU, and of course, I'll give you Florida State, Virginia Tech as well. But I'm 12-5. Somebody on the chat, I believe it was Austin, asked me how I did this weekend. Well, no, he asked me to clarify my wins and losses. So yeah, Texas minus 13. I knew when I pulled the trigger on that one, that was a bad one. And of course, Maryland won the game outright. I had Michigan State minus 23.5. That was my other loss, along with Penn State minus 24, Tennessee plus the 9.5, and Michigan plus the 2.5. Those were the 5 losses against the 12 wins. And I won't run down those, but I did take Central Florida, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and so forth and so on. I'm not going to run through all the games. 12-5. You can check the record. I had a prediction video out a few days ago, and then I gave the rest of my Saturday predictions during the big 2-hour kickoff launch whatever we're going to call that live stream each and every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So appreciate you guys jumping on the live stream. So we will get you set with Miami Talk at 6:30 Eastern time in just about 45 minutes from now. And then I may do a halftime, possibly. If you guys want halftime analysis, I'll jump on here and we'll do that. But definitely join me for the post game as soon as we hit double zeros. Or if it's a Leon Hurricanes prediction come true at 45-17, I'll jump on with 5 minutes left in the game. If the play on the field doesn't matter with 5 minutes left, I'll strike up the live stream and we'll get going on the analysis. But if we're coming down to a final possession, then I will do it later in the game, near the end of the game. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. And we will see you at 6:30, about 45 minutes from now, 6:30 Eastern time. More Miami talk from the Miami side with the Wholesome one, Dwayne Holloway. And then possibly halftime. And then definitely post-game, join me right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will see you in 45 minutes.